Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about shotguns as SHTF anti-drone guns. Okay, so drone warfare is here, and I'm not even talking about like the government drones that fly at like 10,000 feet. I'm talking about the $300 drones that you buy on Amazon that we can see are actually being used for warfare in Ukraine and the Middle East. Okay, so these drones are primarily being used for observation, right? So they can observe a position and figure out how to best attack it. But they're also being rigged with explosives, so they can actually attack people. Okay, so the drones are in addition to observation, they're also anti-personnel. They're being used to actually attack people. Now, the videos I've seen, it's questionable as how effective they are being rigged with bombs because you gotta carry the bomb, you gotta arm the bomb, and then you gotta drop it on the target. So I don't know, but definitely for observation, it's absolutely a thing. Okay, so it's something that we have to kind of factor in. So so that's why we're keeping it on the list of SHTF guns. The last time I updated this list, I was considering taking the shotgun off of the list, and the reason for that was the main reason why the shotgun was on the list was for hunting, right? For hunting small, fast-moving animals like rodents, birds. That was the primary reason why it was on the list. But now, with drone warfare being a thing, right, and there's enough drones that have been already sold that in an SHTF type of situation, they're going to be out there. They're going to be there. People are going to use them. They're going to use whatever tools are available to them. And there's enough drones out there that they're going to be used at the very least for observation. Okay, so because the drone is a small thing that's moving around, right? Yeah, the shotgun, particularly shooting buckshot, is probably the best way to stop it. Okay, now you don't have to completely destroy it. Drones are pretty fragile. They usually have like multiple propellers, like 4 propellers, and if you just damage one of the propellers a little bit, it's going to destabilize. It's not going to be able to fly as well. It may fall out of the sky. So we just need to damage it enough so that it can't continue to do what it's doing. Okay, so that's an important thing to know. It's not like you're shooting clay discs out of the air where you basically turn the clay discs into dust. You just need to damage it, particularly the propellers, right? It's not going to be able to keep doing what it's doing. Okay, primarily doing observation. So we're gonna focus on the shotguns first, right? We're gonna talk about different choices, pros and cons, and then I'm gonna kind of do a recap of the other SHTF guns. But let's stick to the shotgun. So, number one shotgun that you guys should have for anti-drone defense is some kind of an AK shotgun. Okay, so this is the Lynx 12. I've done many videos on this. You can't. I don't know if they're still selling these. I don't think they're still selling them. I mean, if there's any that they have in stock, I'm sure they'll sell them. But I don't know if they're still being imported. They may have been discontinued. But I think that other companies are making these. I think JTS is making them. That is probably the company. Like if I didn't have a number of AK shotguns, that's probably what I would go look at, the JTS ones. But yeah, you want a semi-automatic, magazine-fed shotgun that you can mount an optic on it, collapsible stock. Okay, reliable. Okay, so here's the thing. I've got 2 of these right here. Okay, so each of these has 15,000 plus rounds on it. Okay, each one of them. 15 on this one, 15 on this one. And prior to this, okay, I had 2 Sega 12s. Okay, and we're going back like 12 years at this point. I had 2 Sega 12s, and each of those did about 30,000 rounds each before the bolt carriers broke, right? There was the bolt carriers started separating at the point where the piston attaches the carrier. So but I got like 30K rounds out of each of those. I used those for many years, and as soon as those broke, I was like frantically shopping around for a replacement. They weren't importing Sega 12s anymore. I tried the Cheetah 12, which came from SDS, the same company that made the Lynx 12. The Cheetah 12 was garbage. Okay, I was having lots of reliability problems when I would shoot it. The dust cover would fly off. So the Cheetah 12 was garbage, but they took some of the lessons that they learned off of the Cheetah 12, and they built the Lynx 12, which is a very reliable gun. Okay, and the nice thing is that it takes the Sega 12 magazine. So since I already had like, you know, many of these Sega 12 magazines, that was a good reason for me to like, you know, like why I wanted to go with that. Now I have looked at other semi-automatic shotguns. I've looked at like I've actually have met up with people and tried like I don't want to call them AR shotguns because they're really not ARs. They don't work the same way. The parts aren't the same, but they have the shape of an AR-15. Okay, and I don't even remember what company it was, but what my initial impressions on these AR shotguns is that the system was pretty complicated and it might have reliability issues. Okay, so that was my initial impressions on the ARs. The AK shotguns, they pretty much follow the AK pattern. Okay, so I mean, obviously you got a barrel, you've got a piston over here, the bolt very similar, the trigger system, trigger's very system safety. It's basically, this follows the AK-47 pattern as closely as possible, which is part of the reason why this is very reliable. Okay, it has the side mount here for your optics, so it follows the AK pattern very closely, and that's why it's, you know, I got 15K on this one, 15K on the other one. Very reliable. So if at all possible, get yourself an AK shotgun, magazine fed, that will take an optic on top. Get one that will follow the AK pattern as closely as possible. Now I want to add two quick things on the shotgun and an AK shotgun. Number one, when you buy it, make sure it has an adjustable gas valve. The Lynx 12 has 4 positions because shotgun shells, you know, from birdshot to buckshot to slugs, you know, 2 3/4 inches, 3 inches, they've got really different pressures, right? So you want to be able to kind of like fine tune it. Now, usually, like if you have it set to birdshot, okay, which is where I have this one set, right, with the biggest hole, it will also shoot everything else, but it will recoil a lot harder. Okay, so especially if you're like shooting a drone in the air that's like up there like this, okay, and if you know you're going to be shooting, let's say buckshot, if you can adjust the gas valve to, you know, so that it recoils a little bit less, you'll more easily be able to shoot these unconventional positions. Okay, so that's one of the big benefits of having a gas regulator. Now, and also what happens is the recoil spring, right? This recoil spring acts as a shock absorber. Okay, so with a pump, basically there's no shock absorber. So especially if you're shooting an unconventional position like this, all that, you know, especially if you're shooting like 3-inch shells, man, that you know, you're gonna get kicked pretty hard in a way that you're not used to getting kicked if you're up here like this. Okay, so having an adjustable gas valve is a big advantage on a shotgun. Okay, and having a recoil spring that absorbs some of that recoil is also an advantage. Now, what you want to do is make sure that you remove your gas valve and clean it every so often, because otherwise it will seize up and you won't be able to remove it. I've done it. And basically, this one's impossible to get off. I mean, if I put a vice grip on it and I turn it, I may get it off, or I may crack it. So I'm leaving it alone. I'm not doing anything with it. But yeah, with the adjustable gas valve, make sure that you are removing it and cleaning it so it doesn't seize up on you. Okay. So yeah, I wanted to add those things with the with an AK style shotgun. Make sure it's got an adjustable gas valve that has at least 4 positions. The Sega 12 only had 2, so this is an improvement. And having a recoil spring is going to pick up a lot of that recoil, especially if you're shooting the 3-inch shells, which will give you a lot more distance. Okay, so yeah, and you try to get a shotgun that will take 3-inch shells in addition to the 2 and 3/4 inches. Okay, let's talk about some other possibilities. Okay? So let's talk about pumps. Okay, what about pumps? Okay, so how many rounds do I have on this one? I would probably say 2,000 to 5,000 on this one. I mean, this one only has a few hundred on it. I've got other pumps. So with the pumps, I have found that with relatively low counts, right? Considering I got like 15K here, 15K here, 30 on my Sega, on one Sega, 30 on another Sega. With relatively low round counts, sub 5,000 rounds, I generally have some kind of a problem with the tube magazine. Okay, so so we're talking about reliability here. So the way these things load is you throw you feed the shells in into the magazine through this ejection port here, and there's a spring in there, and when the shells go in, there's this basically like basically it locks behind it, and when you pump it, it opens up. So what I have found, right, is that I generally have with high round counts, the magazine tube has some kind of a problem. Okay, this has happened to me more than once it's happened to me several times on several different shotguns. Now, in general, the magazine is one of the most vulnerable parts of a gun. Okay, so here's the thing with these AK style magazines. I mean, yeah, I've broken magazines. I've had issues with them, but with this, you throw it out and pull out another one. Okay, because these are detachable. So this is one of the most vulnerable areas of any gun, including like your AR-15s and your Glocks. This is vulnerable. It breaks. You just get another one. Okay, when you have a tube magazine, okay, when something inside it breaks, it's not so easy to replace and fix and etc. because this is part of the gun. Okay, so that's the first problem that I ran with pump guns as far as reliability when you're doing high round counts, and we're talking like 5,000 plus rounds. Okay, because a lot of times when people as far as shotguns, people tend to not shoot them as much as other guns. So a lot of times people think that they got a couple of hundred rounds on a shotgun. It's like, oh yeah, I got a high round count. I shoot, and it's not just me shooting. When I train people, the guns run thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds, and with all the guns, the magazines are one of the first things that break. And when the magazines are detachable, okay, it's easy to correct the problem by changing magazine. Okay, when the magazine is integral to the gun, it's not so easy to change the magazine. Okay, so that's the main reliability issue I have had with pumps. Numerous pumps from different companies, and you can see this one's got like all sorts of wear on it. Okay, so as far as using this, okay, what I find is in stressful situations, people tend to short stroke it. People tend to drop shells. So with the magazine, right? So you got all your shells. There's a 10-round magazine. You load them all at once into the gun, okay? Instead of feeding it one by one. So, I mean, you can always a lot of times you can fumble loading the magazine, especially on an AK style gun, right? Because you have to kind of hook it, right, and basically rock it in. But you know, you could if you fumble it, that's like you're gonna fumble it once, okay, or at the point that you're trying to insert it. When we're trying to feed shotgun shells one by one into the through the ejection port down here. You know, every time you try to load one, there's another opportunity for you to fumble it. Okay, so even with people that have lots of experience with pumps, when I put them in a stressful situation, they drop shells. Okay, and the other thing that they'll do is they will short stroke it. They won't pump it hard enough to completely eject the the shell. Now, the other thing to understand with specific to anti-drone defense, you're not going to be like sitting here, like you're shooting clay discs. Okay, you're probably going to be on your back, behind the rock or something, in a very awkward, unconventional position. Okay, so trying to pump the shotgun when you're on your back, right, or in a hole or in a very weird position, is a lot more difficult than trying to pump it when you are standing. Okay, versus semi-automatic. Okay, with this thing, I mean, you could turn this to the side and you're like bang bang, because these do have big magazines, and a lot of times if you these magazines can hit stuff, right? But you can easily turn this to the side, get it in your shoulder with the red dot, right? You don't even have to have your face on the gun. This will work in an awkward position like this. And then with that, this has a 65 MOA circle. With this, even if you're in an awkward position, it's a weird position like this, you can shoot this gun, and you don't have to think about how you're gonna pump it when the thing's like up in the air like this, right? Because the drone's up in the sky like this, right? So with this, it's boom, 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 and you're tracking it, because you can continually track it, right? As it's moving overhead. With this, it's like you got boom, boom, so this can be a very weird situation, and again, very easy to short stroke the gun and cause some type of a jam. So that's one of the things that you gotta think about with using a shotgun, for anti-drone defense. You're not going to be shooting this like you're shooting clay discs. You might be hiding, you might be shooting straight up, you might be on your back. You might be like in the back of a pickup truck, laying down, you might be like trying to shoot it like from underneath the truck pointing up. So that pumping action, right, which is a large motion, right, there's in my opinion, there's a lot of chance for error. Now, other thing with a lot of these shotguns is a lot of times they you can't mount the red dot on it, and you absolutely have an advantage, okay, with a red dot. And I've trained new shooters all the time. I can give this, I train women shooting for the first time, and they hit the clay discs like right away with this compared to this. Okay, you have a much easier time hitting clay discs with this versus this. Okay? So the red dot has a lot to do with that. Not having to pump it every time you shoot has a lot to do with it. With a lot of shotguns like this, all you have is a front bead. So there's no rear sight on this, right? So all you have is that front bead. So that depends on your face being on the stock in order for you to use the front bead. If your face is off the stock, that front bead means absolutely nothing. Okay, you're not aiming. Your face has to be on the stock, okay, in order for you to be able to use the front bead. So you're not going to be able to shoot unconventional positions, on the back, on your back, or up in the air. That can be a little weird, right? That you're not going to be able to do it as easy. Now, some shotguns, like this one over here, has two beads. All right, so they actually put two beads on this, so it's a little bit easier. All right, but then we still have the issue of having to pump it and trying to shoot. Remember, we're not shooting like this anymore. We're shooting like that, trying to track this, like that, trying to track this drone that's flying overhead. Okay, so this is for a combat situation where you have a drone that's like buzz, or maybe multiple drones. Okay, other type shotguns, double barrel. Okay, so this is to a lot of people, this might be nostalgic of Mad Max. Okay, so first of all, when you got double barrel shotgun, this heavy, right? Because a lot of the weight is in the barrel. So you got two barrels here, which makes the gun heavier. Okay. Other thing now with this one over here, I did. I got probably several hundred rounds on this one. It didn't take long before the triggers started going a little wacky on me. So what happened is, because you got two triggers here, one for the right one for the left one. But at some point, the sears started wearing out, and when I would pull one trigger, the vibration would also set off the second trigger. So I would pull one trigger and both barrels would fire at the same time. So it was kind of cool, but not if you need a second shot. Okay, so yeah, just keep that in mind. These things tend to be heavier. Okay, so this is like right now, this isn't loaded. This one feels heavier. Now, obviously, if I load this up, it's going to get a little bit. It's probably going to be heavier than this one. But here I only got 2 rounds, whereas that one I can have 10 plus 1. I can have 11 rounds. Okay, so yeah, shotguns definitely back on the SHTF gun list for anti-drone defense. That's something that we got to think about. It's a thing. We're seeing it. Enough of them have been sold, so that it's like anybody that would want to take the stuff that you have, right, or attack you in your home might try to fly a drone, an SHTF type situation, might try to fly a drone over to observe and try to do as much information gathering as possible, and we want a way to to stop that from happening, right, to stop other people from seeing what defensive what defense preparations we have made. Okay, so let's just do a quick recap of my SHTF guns list. Okay, so your number one is your AR-15 shooting 5.56. Okay, that's your number one gun. Okay, as far as 5.56. Nice thing about 5.56 is like 1,000 rounds, weighs something like 22 pounds. Okay, so I think with birdshot, for the same weight, I get only 200 rounds. Okay, with buckshot, it might be 100 rounds. Okay, so when we're looking at weight with 5.56, we're getting a lot more ammunition for the same weight. So the way I see it, since the 5.56 is lighter, I got more of it. The shotgun is definitely not something I would want to use for a self-defense type of situation against another person. I would want to conserve that ammunition specifically for drone defense. Okay, so 5.56, is definitely your primary. Your number 2 gun, number 2 SHTF gun is your Glock, either 17 or 19 in 9mm. Okay, it's got to be 9mm because that is the most common. Okay, so again, we want to, number 1 gun and number 2 gun, we want to use the most common calibers. So 5.56 and 9mm, Glock something. Okay, the 3 criteria for picking a gun is number 1, reliability, proven in a battlefield military conditions, so reliability. Number 2, access to parts. Okay, so the patents on ARs and Glocks have expired, so you have access right now to lots of aftermarket parts. Okay, and people have been stockpiling a lot of these Glock and AR-15 parts. Okay, so number 2 is access to parts, and number 3, access to fix the guns, or knowledge to fix the guns when they break. Okay, so there's lots of people out there that know how to fix AR-15s and Glocks. Okay, so even if you don't know how to fix these guns yourself, you can find somebody else that can fix it for you or teach you how to fix it. Okay, so that's why AR-15 5.56 is your number 1, Glock in 9mm is your number 2. Number 3, I have a 9mm AR. Okay, so this replaced the AK-47, and I'm not saying if you got an AK-47 thrown in the garbage. Okay, the reason why the 9mm AR replaced the AK-47 is the reliability of ARs was questionable, and we didn't know it at the time. But the weakest link of an AR-15 was its magazine. Those old aluminum magazines, when they would fall on their feed lips, they would bend slightly. Sometimes you wouldn't even see it, and it would cause feeding problems. Okay, so once we got the PMag, and now Lancers and other magazines, AR-15s became extremely reliable. Okay, so that kind of made a lot of people think, hey, AR-15 is enough. So, and also with AKs, they became expensive, harder to import. The ammunition also became more expensive. So I'm not saying throw out your AK-47, but as far as SHTF guns, basically the 9mm AR took its place in the number 3 position. Basically my 9mm AR, I wanted to take Glock magazines, right? Glock 17 magazines, Glock 19 magazines. So number one, it takes the same magazines. Number two, I've got lots of 9mm ammunition, and there's lots of 9mm ammunition out there. So that makes it a really good number 3 gun to have, okay? And it's also a good choice for hunting like dog size animals, okay? In an SHTF type of situation, dog size animals might be the best you can get for food, okay? So you're conserving your 5.56 ammunition. You can use your 9mm ammunition, okay? So the 9mm AR was number 3. Number 4, I had a 22 conversion bolt for your AR-15. Okay, so that knocked out the Ruger 1022, and the reason was that, hey, I mean, if you can shoot 22s in practice and hunt small rodents with the 22 out of by installing a 22 conversion bolt into your AR-15. That's one less gun that you got to buy, right? Because Ruger 1022s are no longer cheap, okay? I mean, there was a time when they were cheap. They're no longer cheap. They are, they're very reliable with the 10-round rotary magazines, but once you start putting in the 25-round BX magazines, I have found that they become less reliable. So they're not that much more reliable, with a 25-round magazine compared to, your AR-15 with a 22 conversion bolt and a 22 magazine in it. Okay, so the 22 conversion bolt was my number 4 choice for SHTF guns, and my number 5 choice, okay, was an AK-47 shotgun. Okay, so at the time I said Lynx 12 because you can still buy them. At this point, I don't know if you can buy it, but basically an AK shotgun that takes Sega 12 magazines, just because there's a lot of them out there. They're still selling them. They're fairly cheap. And at the time, I had said it was the shotgun was there primarily for hunting purposes. Now it's there primarily for anti-drone defense. Okay, so yeah, that's my SHTF list, and I think that the shotgun with buckshot, especially, would be very effective against the common $300 drones that most people would have. But if you only got birdshot, that will probably do enough damage to the to the drone that it wouldn't be able to continue flying. So even with birdshot, if that's all you got, it would probably work. You may have to shoot a little bit more at it, but it would probably work. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys got any other ideas, please let me know, and we'll talk soon.